what my presentation is about is putting you in control of FAFSA. I want you to understand what it's all about. I want you to understand the formulas, okay? This is the information that the financial aid officers are not responsible for. No one in the college financial aid process is in charge of teaching you how to become more eligible for financial aid, okay? This is up to you, okay? And not only are you going to save money, but the money, you're going to save interest on the money that you don't have to borrow, okay? So I'm not saying you're not going to have to borrow money. But if I can save you, if I can give you an idea whereby you can save $500 or $1,000, you're not only going to save the 500 or the 1,000, but you're going to save 10 years of interest on that money, okay? So this is a big deal. It's a big deal. I am going to take this and move from behind this podium because I'm not really a podium kind of a guy. And I'm going to step over here. And I'm going to start playing with this thing so we can move forward. Now, as you saw from the previous slide, I am a CPA. And I got involved in this whole thing because I had a son that was going to go to college. And I knew, because I'm a tax guy, that when you understand how a federal program works, it's just a matter of looking for the loopholes, right? I mean, that's what tax guys do. We prepare your taxes. We prepare your taxes legally, but we're looking for the loopholes, right? So that's why some guys pay 15% in their federal taxes, and other guys pay 35%. Okay, it's a matter of, you know, finding the loopholes and using the loopholes. Okay, we all know the cost of college is totally out of sight. Okay, $200,000. I think I typed that in there a few years ago. Actually, there are universities out there that are $50,000, $60,000 a year. But everything I'm going to present to you this evening comes from this book right here, Paying for College Without Going Broke. I have read through this, every edition of this, for the last 10 years. It comes out every year. It's by Kellerman Chaney, okay? It's a great book. I highly recommend it. But I'm not going to present everything in this book. I'm just going to present the tax guy stuff. I'm just going to teach you the formulas behind the federal aid process so that you understand the formulas behind FAFSA, so that you understand, so that you can calculate what your expected family contribution is going to be before you get the answer back from the Department of Education, okay? Each of you, when you fill out the FAFSA, you're going to get what they call an SAR back. And that's going to tell you what your expected family contribution is. I want you to know what that number is, a good ballpark, a good frame of reference. So when that comes back, and it's not what you expected, well, you know you may have done something wrong. And that should trigger a conversation between you and the financial aid officer at your son or daughter's school. Okay? The main quote I want you to take a look at is right here at the bottom. People who receive the most aid are the people who best understand the process. There are two F's in FAFSA. Neither of them stand for fair, okay? When you see the two words, free and federal, together in one sentence, what comes to mind? Does fairness come to mind? Okay? Absolutely not, okay? So I'm going to mention several times this evening, I'm going to point out several times this evening how the FAFSA process is certainly not fair. And that's why I'm going to tell you everything that nobody else will. Because there's no financial aid officer that's going to stand before a group like this and tell you the kind of things that I tell you and have somebody raise a hand and say, well, that's not fair. Okay? Because it's not. All right? This is what the FAFSA looks like on paper, okay? This is what it looks like. And if you take a look at it, this part here is basically an income statement. Okay? This is your income up here. Those are your expenses there. There's a bottom line down here. This over here is your balance sheet. So that's what FAFSA is all about. It's an income statement and it's a balance sheet. And it's an income statement and a balance sheet for both you, the parent, and it's also an income and a balance sheet for the student as well. And I'm going to teach you the difference, okay? Now, question number one, who is the parent? The parent that fills out the FAFSA is the parent or the parents, in many cases the parents, who have custody of the child. So in a case of a family that where one parent lives with the child and the other parent doesn't, then it's the parent that lives with the child. It's the parent that has custody of the child. If it's a divorce situation, well, you look to the divorce decree. Who has custody of the child? That parent that has custody is the parent that fills out the FAFSA, not the other parent. Okay? So if you're a parent here and you don't have custody of your child, and you were here because you wanted to learn how to fill out the FAFSA, you're in the wrong place. Okay? Your spouse should be here instead of you. It's supposed to be the parent that has custody. So the parent that has custody, and I mean actual custody. I don't mean theoretical custody based on a legal document. I mean, who did the child live with when the child was a senior? Okay. Let me explain what an audit is. If you're audited and 47% of the FAFSA applications are audited, what the audit is they're going to ask for the tax return. And if you're the parent that filled out the FAFSA, your son or daughter better be a dependent on your tax return. Sure. Okay? But not only do they have to be a dependent, but they really should have lived with you. And they will. Colleges, these people have seen everything. Okay? These people have seen everything. But you can also give me your email address, and I promise I will email you my spreadsheet. This is what you can use to calculate your expected parent contribution so you know what it should be before you even do the FAFSA. So if you don't get the right answer, you know you may have done something wrong. And trust me, everybody does something wrong on the FAFSA. It's very unusual. Okay? It's very unusual. Now what we do is we sit down with our tax clients and we actually have them do the FAFSA right there at our offices. So we make sure that it's done right for you. But if you're on your own, hopefully what I will show you tonight, explaining how to use my spreadsheet, you'll have the ability to go ahead and be able to do the FAFSA on your own, and you'll be able to use my spreadsheet to check to make sure you did it right. Okay? We're going to go through it one time for the parent, and for the student, it's really the same spreadsheet, only some of the numbers are a little bit different. So I'm just going to explain that to you, okay? Okay. Now the first thing, let me go back a minute. The first thing on the first box there says parents' adjusted gross income. Now we're going to go through this twice tonight because I want to make sure you understand it. We're going to start out with the spreadsheet, the handout that has the yellow lines on it, okay? That's the quick way to calculate what your expected family contribution is. So we're going to go through that one first. Parents' adjusted gross income, box number 1, on your tax return, if you do the long form, the 1040, it's going to be line 27. 37, sorry, Mike. Thanks. Line 37. It's the bottom of the first page, and it's going to be the top of the second page. Same number, okay? So that's where we start. Now, a lot of you folks and a lot of your tax preparers are proud of the fact that you got a lot of deductions over here. These are where your itemized deductions come in over here for your mortgage interest and your property taxes and your contributions to your church and all that good stuff that you get deductions for. Well, guess what? That has nothing to do with FAFSA. It has absolutely nothing to do with FAFSA. So don't think that because you're writing a check for $2,000 or $3,000 a month for your mortgage and for your taxes, your property taxes, that that's going to get you out of having the responsibility of paying for your son or daughter's college. That is not considered, okay? It's not considered. So it's just the AGI, adjusted gross income. Now, when it comes to this AGI, there's different numbers that you need to understand. The first is the simplified needs test, okay? That's where the AGI is less than $50,000. Now remember I told you that the FAFSA is an income statement and a balance sheet, okay? If you qualify this for the simplified needs test, if your AGI for your family is less than $50,000, then you can forget about the balance sheet, okay? The FAFSA does not look at your assets. It's one of those deals where it asks you a few questions, and if the answer is yes, it says skip to line, 38 or whatever. And skip all those other questions about your assets. Okay? So a simplified needs test is a good thing. Okay? You have to have an AGI less than $50,000, and you have to be able to fill out a 1040A or a 1040EZ. Okay? Now the difference between a 1040, which is what we call the long form, and the 1040A or the 1040EZ is that those are referred to as the short forms. Those are the forms where you don't get credit for your itemized deductions. Okay? So you can't get credit for your itemized deductions. If you're receiving alimony, you can't fill out a 1040A or a 1040EZ. Okay? 1040A and 1040EZs are people that don't have itemized deductions. So that doesn't say that you can't forget about the itemized deductions. I mean, you don't have to take deductions if you don't want to. Okay? So just to let you know. Now, there's also what's referred to as an automatic zero EFC. Okay? That's where your AGI is below $32,000 and you can fill out a 1040A or a 1040EZ. So you're going to see these questions on the FAFSA. You're going to see these when you're sitting down with your computer and going through these questions. You're going to see, well, why the heck are they asking me whether I can fill out a 1040A or a 1040EZ? Well, that's because they're seeing if you're eligible for a zero EFC. A zero EFC is a very good thing. What that means is that your expected family contribution is basically zero. Okay? Now, for years and years, FAFSA did not change very much at all. And then in 2009, there were some major changes, okay? And one of the major changes, the most basic major change, is that they provided some discretion, okay, to people like Christine to be able to make financial aid decisions outside the actual expected family contribution that's calculated by the Department of Education on the FAFSA site itself. So as the evening goes by, I'm going to be pointing out different things that you need to talk to your financial aid officer at your son or daughter's college. Okay? Tell you the truth, you should really get to know those people on a first name basis. They should know who Carolyn is or who George is or who they should know you, because you should be pointing out to them all of the different ways that you should be more eligible for financial aid. But when you call them, you have to have your numbers, because these are number people. Okay? You have to have, if it has to do with a prior year tax return, if it has to do with an unusual situation, you've got to have your numbers ready. You've got to be able to fax those calculations to your financial aid officer so that they can they have some evidence, so to speak, of the fact that you need more financial aid over and above what was calculated by the Department of Education. Okay? So just because you get that SAR back and it says your expected family contribution is $20,000, that doesn't mean that that's where it ends. It shouldn't end there. Okay? You should, find out who the financial aid officer is at that school, and if you have an unusual situation, one of the topics that that we talked about tonight, give them a call, and you'll save yourself thousands of dollars. And you'll not only save yourself thousands of dollars, you'll save yourself interest on those thousands of dollars. Okay? You ready for more? Dislocated worker. The other very important changes that came about in 2009, probably because of the financial crisis that we're in, and this, by the way, may go away someday, is the concept of the dislocated worker. If at any time you or your spouse or your student loses a job, you get on that telephone and you call that financial aid officer who already knows who you are. And you say, guess what? I just lost my job. I'm a dislocated worker. Is there anything you can do for me? They can make changes in your financial aid award during the year, even though the year started. If you've lost a job, you're going to get on the phone and explain to them that. And if your student lost the job, they get on the phone and explain that. What happened? Okay, dislocated worker. Now, this is the good news. Dislocated worker automatically is considered for the simplified needs test. Okay? So you're a millionaire, you're Mitt Romney, and you lose your job, you could call a financial aid officer. I mean, it won't work for him because people, he's a high-profile kind of guy, but theoretically, he could call the financial aid officer and say, look, I lost my job. You can't consider my assets. And by the way, I'm unemployed. So, my wife doesn't work. You can't consider our assets anymore. And, of course, now he has a lot of income coming in from his capital gains, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, obviously he has enough money. But don't think that just because you made, $180,000 last year, and that's how you filled the FAFSA out, and you weren't eligible for financial aid, that doesn't mean that if you lose your job, you won't be. So get on the phone and call and explain that you're a dislocated worker. Okay? You could also be a dislocated homemaker. Maybe you're a homemaker and you're taking care of the kids, and your former husband, who was supposed to be paying you alimony, can't pay it anymore because he lost his job, or she lost her job. So in a situation like that, you need to call and explain the situation to the financial aid officer. Very different from what it was originally. It used to be, my way or the highway. It used to be, you get your expected family contribution number from the Department of Education, and that was it. Now it's very different. Okay, so dislocated worker, you can go through here, read through here, get some idea of what a dislocated worker is. Does anybody have any questions about a dislocated worker? Okay? All right. So everybody knows who the parent is and what kind of problems the parent can have. Okay? And also, if you have been receiving any means-tested federal benefits, if you're receiving those, you probably know what they are. Then you also, because some federal agency has already looked into your situation and determined that you need federal assistance, then you also are eligible, because of that, for the simplified needs test. And keep in mind that independent students who are students who are 24 years old, or students who are going to graduate school. Those are independent students, okay? They're not eligible for a zero EFC. They're on a different schedule. All the schedules you have are Schedule A. If you look at the schedule itself, the handouts this evening, they're all Schedule A's. Those are the schedules for parents, okay? The independent students fill out entirely different schedules, so their formulas and things are different than yours. Okay, so now we're going to get into the spreadsheet. And the idea behind this is you basically take your expected, your AGI, your adjusted gross income, and you multiply that by 85%, and then you subtract your income protection allowance, okay? And then you add that to 12% of your assets, and then you look up your adjusted, you take that, you add those two together, you get your adjusted available income, and then you're going to take that number and you're going to go to table 6. Now, I'm going to go through this very carefully with you so you understand what I just said. But I wanted to say that in one sentence so that you understand that I don't want you to get lost in the numbers. This is really a very simple mathematics problem, okay? It's a very simple mathematics problem. I'm going to show you how to do it the short way, the simple way, the basic ballpark way, and then I'm going to go and show you the detailed way, everything that's on the FAFSA, so that you understand all the questions, and so that you can use my detailed spreadsheet to come up with a pretty accurate idea of what your expected family contribution is going to be. Okay, so again, the AGI is this number down here. Now, before we get back to the spreadsheet, I want to talk about a couple of things. Keep in mind that the most important thing that determines your expected family contribution is your income, your AGI. That's the main thing, okay? Based on the formula, up to 47% of your income can be expected to be used for college, okay? But there's an income protection allowance that you subtract from your AGI before you get to the at the bottom what they refer to as the scary thing, available income, okay? So there's an income protection allowance, and we're going to show you that in a minute. So we start out with the adjusted gross income, and you all know what that is, and then you multiply that number on the fast way to do this. You multiply that number by about 85%. That accounts for your Social Security and Medicare that you pay, and it also accounts for the fact that you get credit for the taxes you paid. So this is just an estimate now. It's just an estimate. This isn't the actual number, but if you want to get some idea, just a ballpark idea, you take your AGI, multiply it by 85%, and then you go to your table 3. Everybody turn to their table 3, where it says your income protection allowance, and you see what that's going to be. Here's the income protection allowance. The way you read this table is you go to the left-hand side here, and it says the number in the parent's household, including the student. Okay? So if you're a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 children, one of them is going to school, your income protection allowance is $25,210. So what that means is after you take your AGI, you take 85% of your AGI, now you're going to subtract from that number $25,210. What you have left over is that scary number, which is your available income. Fair enough? Everybody got me so far? AGI times 85% minus income protection allowance. If you have a family of 6 and you have one individual in college, your income protection allowance is higher. It's $34,790. The Department of Education understands the fact that the larger your family is, the more of your income it takes to support that family. So they give you a larger income protection allowance. Makes sense, right? I didn't create this chart. That's the Department of Education. And by the way, this is fresh off the Department of Education website. Now, I dare you to try to find it. Because, Mike, how long does it take us every year to find this thing? About a half hour. And we know what we're looking for. because they change on the website where it is. They hide it in the little corner of the website. It's almost impossible to find. They don't want you to know about this. They don't want you to know how to become more eligible for federal financial aid because you'll learn how you can game the system. It's not a fair system. We're going to get into that. Okay? So now we're basically down to available income. And then from there, we go to net worth. We go right to here. We skip right to net worth. Now, what in the heck is net worth? Well, everybody knows that, right? The important thing about net worth is what it does not include. Okay? This is the crazy world of Fafsa now. This is the crazy world. This is where we're going to start realizing that it's not really that fair, okay? Is your house considered part of your net worth? I mean, normally? Yeah, it is. You know, normally you figure out what your net worth is. You get everything on a spreadsheet like this. You add everything up and you say, oh, boy, you know. Or maybe you say, oh, my gosh, you know, I used to be worth $500,000 and now I'm only worth $300,000 because the value of your home's dropped $200,000. But for FAFSA purposes, keep in mind, please keep in mind, that your house is not part of your net worth. And you can use this strategy if you're smart. You can use this strategy to make yourself more eligible for financial aid. Well, how can that be? Well, let's say that Mike and I are living right next door to each other. We both have the same number of kids. And we both got $100,000 in the bank. Okay? I take my $100,000 and I pay down my mortgage with it. And then, because now I don't have any money, I take out a home equity loan so that if I need some money in emergencies or need to help Johnny go to college, I can write a check from my line of credit against my home. Mike doesn't do that. He just keeps his money in the bank. Okay? Who do you think is going to get more financial aid? I am, because his $100,000 has to go over here, part of his net worth. Cash is there, investments are there. Now, what about investments? Do you put your, I mean, normally when you fill out your net worth, you put in your 401k, you put in your IRA, your Roth IRA. If you got money in your health savings account, you know, you put that in there. Is that part of your investments for FAFSA purposes? No. Whatever you do, do not list your IRAs, your 401ks, or any of that information on FAFSA. Okay? It kind of tells you in the little print not to put it in there, but, you know, people put it in there all the time. People put it in there all the time. Okay? Don't hurt yourself. This is a snapshot of your balance sheet. And it's not a snapshot you want to look good in. You know what I mean? You know those snapshots when you were a kid where, you know, somebody stood behind you and put little devil ears over you? You know, you don't want to look good in the snapshot, you know. Now, you don't want to look too cute either. I mean, if on your tax return says you've got interest and capital gains and dividends and all that good stuff on your tax return, and then you put zero here for investments, you know, I mean, it's not going to work. I mean, you know, Christine will pick that out in a minute. Come right after you, give you a call. What's this all about? You know, and it's the same way with you kids, okay? Now, you take that net worth, and don't worry about this business stuff. This business stuff up here, if you have a family business and you employ less than 100 people, then don't even put it up there. You don't have to put it up there. You don't have to list a family business on your FAFSA. Now, if you employ over 100 people, you got to put it there. And we'll go into that a little bit later. It gets a little complicated. But they still don't have to list the whole value of it. Okay? So family business, you don't have to put it up there. All right. Now, so let's go to net worth. We first, just like over here, we took your AGI and then we subtracted an income protection allowance. Now we subtract a asset protection allowance. See how nice they are? Here's the asset protection allowance. Now this chart's a little different, okay? This chart, you go to the eldest spouse, and you use the age of the eldest spouse, okay? This is where old guys like me come in handy. All right.